Maxime Bernier comes out against late-term abortions. Is it principle or is it politics? Ladies and gents, welcome back. Justin Trudeau has been doing his best because of the poll numbers, trying to deflect from controversy within his own government. This China scandal has been really weighing on his political fortitude. And, well, he's been trying to rehash the old abortion debate. We covered this on the channel previously, but this is what he's been putting out on Twitter over and over again.
We are unequivocally and proudly pro-choice and always will be.
Yeah, you didn't have to tell us. We already knew that. That's not something new. This is something he's been trying to rehash, trying to deflect away from the situation that's going on within his own caucus. And, well, just the corruption between his own caucus, his own foundation, the Trudeau Foundation, for which everyone recently on the board has just resigned. I mean, you don't do that if there's nothing wrong. But is this a real debate? Is this something that's been happening in Canadian politics? Well, here's Pierre Poilievre's point of view on the subject.
Poilievre government would not introduce or pass legislation restricting abortion.
Oh, okay. So it's not an issue. Okay, that's what we all thought. It wasn't an issue. But recently, Maxime Bernier, just as early as yesterday, came out saying, breaking, Maxime Bernier announces he will introduce a bill banning late-term abortions if he's elected in June. Now, this is him running for election in a recent, well, we'll get into that. He found a new riding that he's going to run for one of these new by-elections. And, well, this is his new party platform. Bernier aims to propose a bill that bans late-term abortions, this article from the Counter Signal. People's Party of Canada leader Maxime Bernier announced that he'd propose a bill in Parliament that aims to ban late-term abortions if he wins this bid for a federal seat. Now, this article as well coming out of True North, and this is interesting because he actually gets challenged on this one here. Maxime Bernier wants to reopen the abortion debate. It seems to be, it's Justin Trudeau that wants to open this debate, but Maxime Bernier is obliging this. People's Party of Canada leader Maxime Bernier is running the Portage-Lescar by-election. One of his first campaign announcements was the pledge to reopen the abortion debate by pledging to introduce a bill banning abortion after 24 weeks. Currently, there is no law on abortion in Canada. Bernier discussed the issue with True North's Andrew Lawton, as well as what constitutes a win for him in this by-election and why he's not appealing the citation for violating Manitoba's COVID restrictions. Now, we're going to get into what the law about abortion is in Canada soon enough in the video, so hang on for that. But here's Andrew Lawton challenging him on this stance.
Since you bring up the abortion issue, I wanted to get to that with you anyway. Let me just first contextualize this for people. Are you pro-life or are you pro-choice?
You know, I'm a guy that wants to have a debate, and that's why I'm tabling that legislation. I said we must do the first step, Andrew. We didn't have any legislation. We are the only country. All the European countries have legislation on abortion, and usually it's illegal to have an abortion the second trimester. In my legislation, I'm saying we must end the late-term abortion. It must be illegal for a woman to have an abortion after 6 months. And so I believe that every reasonable person must agree with that. And I'm saying to Pierre Poilievre right now at your show, Pierre, why do you want on board babies to be killed after 6 months of pregnancy? Why? If you agree with me, why you don't want to reopen the debate? And so answering your question, Andrew, I think that ideally we must have a legislation that will ban abortion the second trimester. Like all European countries and all across the world, we don't have that. But let's start by having that discussion in Parliament, and I believe that it would be easy if we have reasonable people in Parliament to adopt that. Because, you know, killing a baby a couple of hours before giving birth, That's happening in our country. And I know that the radical feminists will say, oh, no, it's theoretical, it won't happen. It is. I said this morning at my press conference, every year in Quebec, and I just have the data in Quebec, the Quebec government, and in Quebec we have late-term abortion, 20 women every year, they are having a late-term abortion in my own province in Quebec. And so that's the case. And we need to change that. We need to have this debate. And I'm opening that debate right now.
Yeah, but again, it was a pretty direct question. Are you pro-life or are you pro-choice personally?
I would be very direct, Andrew. I won't answer your question. I won't, because the reality is this bill is there, and the goal is to end late-term abortion. And I will answer your question by that answer. Ideally, it would be great to have a legislation that will ban abortion at the second trimester, like all civilized countries. It's time for Canada to be part of the civilized world. So, and that's why I'll have a lot of pro-life people here in this riding that agree with me. You know, you need to start.
I think he gets to the crux of it right there. There's a lot of pro-life people in that riding, and this is where the question comes in. Is this politics or is this a principle? He won't say that he's pro-life or pro-choice. He says he will not answer that question. So it's a very interesting take on the situation. Now, what isn't being discussed, and when this debate comes into play, this law is what needs to be discussed. This is the 1985 C-46 bill, and this is Section 223, and this is where a child becomes a human being. And this is, now we hear this a lot in the US debates because this isn't clearly defined in law. This is clearly defined in Canadian law, and this is what needs to be on the table first before we have any of these debates. And this, in my opinion, is if you're not challenging this law, well, then you're not really challenging anything. It's more of just a political show for, well, maybe some of the people in the riding that you're running in. So here we have it, Section 223, a child becomes a human being within the meaning of this act when it has completely proceeded in a living state from the body of its mother, whether or not it has breathed, it has an independent circulation, or the navel string is severed. And then it goes on to define killing a child. A person commits homicide when he causes injury to a child before or during its birth, as a result of which the child dies after becoming a human being. So this becoming a human being, referring to the section before, which is the definition of when a human becomes a human being, or when a child becomes a human being. Now, Maxime Bernier is running he's running this new race, not in Quebec, but in Manitoba. He says race for Portage-Lescar by-election is between him and a fake conservative, he says. The by-election in Portage-Lescar must be called by August 27 and held no later than October 17th. Maxime Bernier says he will run in what predicts will be a two-horse race for a federal seat in a coming by-election in rural Manitoba. Now, when talking to Marty up north in the previous video, we were talking about elections in Alberta. He was questioning why Maxime Bernier was running in such a right-leaning area, and while this is where it starts to make sense. The seat was previously held by Candice Bergen, who was the Conservative Party's interim leader last year and who stepped down as Member of Parliament in February. Bernier held several roles in Stephen Harper's Conservative government, including leading the Industry and Foreign Affairs ministries. He quit the Conservative Party in 2018 after losing the 2017 leadership contest to Andrew Scheer. After forming his own party, Bernier ran in his former seat of Beauce, Quebec, in 2019 and 2021 elections, losing both times to a Conservative candidate. So here's Maxime Bernier stepping up to the plate saying he is more conservative than the Conservatives. Maybe this plays into why this stance is the stance that he's taking, but is it an effectual stance? Little pushback on Twitter, this one Twitter account saying, oh, Shut it already, Maxime Bernier. Less than 1% of abortions take place after 21 weeks. No woman stays pregnant for 6 to 7 months and suddenly decides to get a third trimester abortion unless her life is in grave danger or the fetus is no longer viable. Mind your, and she says this, to which Maxime Bernier replies, so you agree with me that abortion in the third trimester would only be allowed in exceptional medical circumstances. That's what my private bill says. So the question to all of you today is this really something that is a principled position, or is this something that Max is trying to utilize in order to win a seat in a highly conservative region, a rural area in Manitoba, trying to pander, as politicians often do, to the base of constituents in that area? I'll leave that off with you guys. Leave a comment in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think, and we'll see you in the next one. Keep on trucking.